Hey, I'm Todd. Thanks for choosing to watch my video, and if you would subscribe it, like it, all that stuff, that'd be great. Otherwise, enjoy the video, and I hope it gives you the information you need and is helpful to you. Take care. Alright, this is a 2003 Mazda 6 2.3 liter. Has I guess you call it a kind of idle problem, surging problem, stalling problem. And there are lots of comments on YouTube about, of course, batteries disconnected and procedures for that. But this is something different. Let's see what's going on here. I don't know if you can pick it up on the video, but there's quite a sucking sound. If you're familiar with a vacuum leak, sucking air. And so that's a PCV valve hose down here underneath the intake. Kind of poor place to put it. No tear in the boot. The battery hasn't been disconnected. Sucking air down below. So you'll need to take the intake off and get to the PCV valve hose, which is probably collapsed and sucking air. So I've zoomed in. Hose is up there. Very difficult to see right above the starter. Took the shield off. That was down here, right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At least 5 bolts were holding it in place. Maybe there's 1, 2, maybe 3, 4, 5, and maybe a couple back there. It's the 2003. Who knows what's been lost, or even if your shield's there anymore. But that is the possibly the problem. You may or may not see a hose issue down here, but there it is. And you'll need to take this apart and get to that hose. Friction fits in here. Usually you can push down on this tab to release this, but it seems to be sticking. That's what I'm working on. Disconnected some stuff here. This hose clamp assembly here. Took the clamp off here to get the hose out here because this is not coming out like it usually does of this hole, so that's what's going on there. Alright. So my instructions don't say anything about the dipstick. It just gives me a picture and tells me what to take off. But there's a dipstick here with two 8mm bolts holding brackets. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take the two 8mm bolts out at some point here and get that out of the way. 10mm bolt here, 10mm bolt through here, 10mm bolt through a hole here, 10mm bolt here, and a 10mm bolt in the corner here. And try and get something right through here. A multiple selection of extensions. There's actually two bolts there. Only one bolt there. One bolt in the middle you can't see. So I got about 6.5 inches here, or 7 inches, maybe for an extension and socket to get that middle out. Just kind of stick it into the fan blade area, and then you can work it into the hole. Like so. Bolt is loose now, got 2 more to go. I don't remember, it says to take the fuel rail off. We got 2 bolts here, 10mm bolts. Got the wire disconnected. We'll maybe just pull it out and lift it up on top of the engine. I did take out the 10mm bolts for this.
Here's your hose and your seals.
Thanks. 2 spacers here, be aware of them. They'll sit in the hole there. Don't lose them. Put them over there. There we are. A little more space.
Now this is just getting a little too careful.
Yeah. You can get those top 2 bolts then really with a ratchet right up here with the fuel injectors out of the way, but maybe just practice with your extensions because you're going to need them for the other ones. We'll go down below and look where that dipstick goes and maybe pull it out and yeah, plug the hole so it doesn't falls in it. It's right in here, pretty nice, so there's probably just an O-ring on there. Ooh. Wow, there we go, it's coming. There it is. Dipstick, the O-ring. Put a little grease or silicone or something on that, a little lubricant, or a little oil. When you put it back in, make it easier to go right back in. Maybe put a rag or something on top of it just to keep stuff from falling in. Got that 10mm bolt. There was a 10mm bolt in here. I took that out when the shield was down. And yeah, we're pretty close. There's a wiring harness is attached to it from the starter. We'll try and hopefully get up with the screwdriver and maybe pull that out. Otherwise it's a pain. There's a connector down here too. So we got a couple connectors to deal with probably. So I think we can leave that harness connected to the starter. I got one more connector down here I can't quite get off. But it needs to come off, I'm pretty sure. Ooh, there we go. They've all got the dumb tabs. Ooh. Push on the tab to release it, but sometimes it's difficult. This one too has a tab. Pushing on the inner section of it in there. So those are disconnected. So I think I have one more bolt right through here. I can get probably through here, right in there. One more bolt on here. Sorry that my phone battery died on my camera here, so I got it out. Let's look at some highlights here, I guess, for getting it out. This connector over here on this side. Just got these friction fits here, and there's one here as well. One down below. These were all stuck on the intake still, so you got to pop those off and separate them. This is in here, making it difficult. Oh, also there's a bolt down here, 10mm bolt, so there's two long ones on this side. So two long ones, I had forgotten about the one down here, so I got that. Here's my connectors. Push on that tab there on the end. This one you push in the middle. And there's our hose, so you pull the intake back. Then you can screw this out. It was a 22mm for me, whatever size relates to that. That makes it easier to get the intake up and out because it sticks in the hole. And yeah, connectors, these stupid push pins, friction fits on there on the intake. So here's our hose, and I cut it to get it off already, and you can see there's the vacuum leak right there, pretty big leak. So we'll slide a new hose on here, we'll drop it down and slide this onto the intake. So what I notice already right now is that some of these come with clamps. This one has no clamps. Maybe the Fords come with clamps, I'm not sure, because this is good for Fords and Mazdas, but they might have a clamp making it a little trickier. But I just cut the old one off as much as possible and then get it out of there and deal with the clamps maybe at a different time. So we'll just wipe this down here and we'll get some new gaskets so that pipe sticks in here. Here's the connector for the tube. Here's where those friction fit connectors for the wiring were sitting in here, being a pain in the butt. Right there. Just left this in. So, there you go. the hole. Can't even see it. So for this bolt here, I like to put it in here, and I put a very thin O-ring on this side to hold it in place. So you don't really have to, but it might make it easier as an option. It'll just be small enough. It'll mash in here and shouldn't be an issue. That is removing it. These are coolant hoses, so you might have to add just a little bit of coolant to the radiator. We'll put our new hose on. My new hose does come with clamps. I don't know if this hits anything, but I'm going to turn it down here so it doesn't interfere as much as I can help it. A couple tips, I think, maybe. I got my little baby O-rings on there so they won't fall out on this end next to the power steering because it's really tight, and then this one here because it's crazy to try and feed that through as well. So the other ones I think will not be too bad. Got our new O-rings put in here, so we're good there. Gaskets, put a little lubricant on here, a little grease on here to get that to slide on. Kind of a tight fit, so it'll be a little awkward. So to make it a little easier, that's going to have a clamp, so it'll be good. We'll just drop this in place, get our EGR tube screwed in tight, and then we'll and put that on, and then we can bolt it up. Got it on down there. We can pull the clip off, that little red clip. So get a couple bolts started, everything's kind of lined up because the other bolts kind of acted as guides. So then we'll go and we'll try and get that middle bolt started and the end bolt started. And we got that connector here. I need to plug that in if you want to set it in its little holes, because it's on the inside of the intake right now, so I might have to actually unbolt it so we can get that snap back in its spot. Best practice if the tabs haven't broken. Basically reverse procedure to install. I'll maybe show any tips for putting it back together. Maybe put a little silicone spray or some grease on the O-rings on the injectors for putting them back in. So dab on each injector O-ring and push it back in. Don't forget your spacers as well. That is one quick tip. The O-rings with some lubricant. And those spacers are important because you're probably pushing on it and thinking, without the spacers, you go, oh, it's not touching the metal, and you might try and push harder or whatever and mess you up, and then tighten down the bolts, and they're not going to be pushing on anything. And so spacers are pretty important. We'll just tighten those down. Everything's tightened up right now. I'll give you specs in a second. 1 to 101 inch-pounds for the bolts holding the intake on. But if you use a 1/4 inch ratchet and an extension, I'm sure with some firm pressure, if it's tight, it's going to be good enough. Trying to get a torque wrench in all those spots might be a little tricky. And I think the intake, the injector hold down bolts, apparently are 15 to 22 foot-pounds. So there you go. So the throttle body bolts are also 71 to 101 inch-pounds, and if you can get the throttle body O-ring gasket, that'd be best as well. Although you can check it to make sure it's actually sticking out from its hole. So we're going back together. Not too bad. I'll put it back together. Let's see if I miss anything. We'll give it a startup. Radiator was full. Certainly runs better with no vacuum leak. Nice cover with some friction fit things here to the top. I'm assuming there was a code for this as well. I think the check engine light was on. We'll check that out and let you know what it was. Alright, so we got some codes in there. Actually, I have 7 in this car. Evap leaks, probably not a huge deal, but P2187, system 2 lean at idle, makes sense with the vacuum leak. System 2 lean off idle, 2177, makes sense. PO300, random misfire, would make sense with the large vacuum leak as well. I think those are the key ones. So, there we are. So we'll just erase them. And that should be it. That's that is your intake manifold replacement on your 2.3 liter. I don't know if that's the engine code 9C485-AE. 2.3 liter, very common in Mazda and Fords. It's the 2003. It's a 2.3 liter VIN C for this. Made one other video for this. I don't know if this one's any better or any worse, but I have 2 videos now, and this should cover many years and models with only a few variations. But there you go, large vacuum leak at the PCV valve hose. Fairly common. Good luck to you.